Hi everyone, it's me Fatma Kaval and I am a student of English Linguistics. The purpose of making this presentation is because it's a part of my term project of the subject Sociolinguistics, which I have studied in my master's program. So, as you all can see, the topic of this presentation is linguistic borrowing and linguistic landscape of Karachi. Now, first I would like to tell you all just the little about what is linguistic borrowing and what is linguistic landscape. Okay, move to the definition of linguistic landscape. The linguistic landscape basically is a social linguistic phenomenon that is used for the promotion of language and culture as well. Linguistic landscape can be seen everywhere in the society. No matter where you are in the world today, language is everywhere you look. No one can escape from the range of the language. It's found everywhere. The linguistic landscape is not limited in its scope. It's not only in our conversations but also everywhere around us. It is with us while we are traveling, while we are walking, even while we are playing or shopping. It's also found in business or religious activities. In short, it's clung with us in every sphere of life. Language has also become a very powerful tool in business, governance, even in religion. Just walk into some town, city, or even market, you find much material written on buildings, airports, shopping centers, even parks, museums. No place will be without wordings, whether in the form of information or advertisement. Since with its start, the language has prevailed maximum in society in different shapes and forms, and still it goes on. Therefore, it's not static, it's the dynamic aspect of language that is goes on changing and adjusts itself according to the situation and needs of the times. It's so universal that every discipline of life has its own language terminology and effect. Everyone knows that the primary purpose of language is communication. But every discipline or field of life has its own bunch of knowledge in the form of vocabulary. Okay, in other words, it has not the jurisdiction only to the signboards or advertisement, rather it's the language that is found in the whole environment as in images, words in public places. Its purpose basically is to grasp the attention in the area referred to as the linguistic landscape. The linguistic landscape is a prime semiotic resource for the tourist consumption of place. Written signs work as symbolic resources to create a sense of place and as performativity displays of identity for their producers and consumers. The visibility of the signs not only represents the story of the language but also cultural, social, even political story. Through the linguistic landscape study, we see signs as indexes that point. Okay, now why is the linguistic landscape important? And the answer is linguistic landscape basically plays an important role in the urban landscape and it has great impacts on the images of a city. The linguistic landscape can provide important insights and a different perspective on our knowledge about language. The linguistic landscape is important not only because it provides the backdrop to our day-to-day lives, but also as a valuable language learning resource. It shapes how we interact as a society and gives us our identity. Okay, move to the definition of linguistic borrowing. A word adopted, often with some modification of its form, from one language into another. In linguistics, borrowing, also known as lexical borrowing, is the process by which a word from one language is adapted for use in another. The word that is borrowed is called a borrowing, a borrowed word or a loan word. Borrowing basically is a consequence of cultural contact between two language communities. Okay, move to the next slide. Now move to the loan words. Let me elaborate further. Loan words are words adopted by the speakers of one language from a different language. A loan word can also be called a borrowing. So, as I said at the beginning, borrowing basically is a consequence of cultural contact between two language communities. Borrowing of words can go in both directions between the two languages in contact, but often there is an asymmetry such that more words go from one side to the other. Okay, now I want to describe what are the dominant languages in Karachi. In Karachi, English basically being considered the language of the elite and educated, predominates at places such as malls and private educational institutes. It's also used by the big brands on their billboards or the shop signs in posh areas of the city. In other side, the smaller shops in lower class localities have mainly Urdu or Roman Urdu written on their signboards. The linguistic landscape of Karachi can easily be explained in socio-economic terms. Smaller cities display an Urdu-dominant landscape, although English enjoys the elitist status there as well. Urdu remains the most widely understood language with extensive outreach and impact, hence used in advertisements and notices most frequently. English has been considered as one of the most useful spoken language and is referred as lingua franca all around the globe. English is the major source for communicating all over the world. The basic theme of this presentation is that finding the English words that have become part of Urdu language in Pakistani circumstances. This is a presentation of English borrowed words that go their way in Urdu in daily communication and concludes that there are a variety of English terms that have been used in the Urdu language for communication of Pakistan. This presentation basically covers the dimension of shop signboards and how they are consciously or unconsciously are promoting the language in Pakistan, especially the Urdu, the national language, and English, the international language. Now move to the next slide. Now in this slide you can see the word shop. Shop basically is an English language word which means a building or part of a building where goods or services are sold. But in this cabin we can easily see the word shop in Urdu language. So this is a loan word. Okay, let's move forward to the next slide. Okay, now in this picture we can see more loan words, and that are donuts and bakers. The other one is GDC and scheme. So baker basically is an English word which means a person who bakes, या simply आप कह सकते हैं who makes bread and cakes, and is also the loan word example. So the other one is donut. Donut is also an English language word which means a small, usually ring-shaped piece of sweet fried dough. These are the examples of loan borrowing. नीचे वाली लाइन में आप देख सकते हैं GDC रोजगार स्कीम. So scheme is also an English word that is used in many sentences in different contexts. Scheme word is driven by the English language, but here you can see written in Urdu language, so it's a loan word. GDC are English alphabets, but here is used in Urdu, so it's also an example of loan word. Okay, now move to the next slide. Now in this signboard we can see the word engineering. which means a person who designs and builds machinery or technical equipment. It's an English word, but here is used in Urdu language. So this word is also an example of loan word. Autos, Akbar autos. So here autos is an ancient Greek word. English is borrowed from Greek, and here we can see the word in Urdu language. So this is also an example of loan word. The third one example is electrical. ये नीचे वाली लाइन में आप देख सकते हैं, बिल्कुल माइनर सा लिखा हुआ नज़र आ रहा है, electrical. The term electrical came from the classical Latin electrum. Electrical means concerned with electricity. English borrowed this word from Latin, and here is used in Urdu language. So this is also a loan word. Now move to the next slide. Now we come to this shop signboard. Here you can see the word store. Store is an English word which means to describe any room or building where people can buy things or pay for a service. So this is also a loan borrowing, and it is used in Pakistani Urdu. It is written in Urdu, although it's a English word. So it's a loan borrowed word. The other one is bakers. Bakers is also an English word which is discussed in the previous slide. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Here you can see the word campus. Adamji Coaching Center, Gulistane Johar campus. So campus is also an English language word, but here we see the word campus in Urdu script. This word is borrowed from English language, so this is a lexical loan word. Now this is very understandable. Many English words find in Urdu context. So the other one is coaching center. Coaching center is also is another example of loan word which is borrowed from English language. So these are the examples of loan word. Okay, this is the last picture, and here in this shop signboard we can see more loan words which is borrowed from English language. The first one is clinic. Clinic is an ancient Greek word which means to slope, lean and recline. In other words, a class of medical instruction in which patients are examined and discussed. Here clinic is written in Urdu language, although it's an English word, so this is a loan word. And is also an English word, and here in this signboard written in Urdu language, so it's a loan word example 2. The other word is maternity home. Maternity is an example, is an English word which means the quality or state of being a mother. In this shop signboard we can easily see the word maternity is used in Urdu language, which is directly borrowed from English language, so it's also a loan word example. Now this is very understandable. Many English words find in Urdu context. Now we come to the next word, and the word is laboratory. Laboratory is also an English language word which means the workroom of a chemist, also a place devoted to experiments in any branch of natural science. Here we can easily see that word is written in Urdu language, so it's a lexical borrowing example. The other word is family, family planning. The word family came into English in the 15th century. Its root lies in the Latin word famulus, which means servant. Originally, family referred to all the people living together in the same house, including both family members as well as servants and even lodgers. Here family written in Urdu language, so it's a loan word or lexical borrowing. Planning is also an English language word, and here is written in Urdu language, so this is a loan word. Example, these are the kind of loan borrowing that I noticed in Gulistan-e Johar in Karachi. Thank you so much.